Mike Pachelli here. Thanks for tuning in. For this lesson, I'll be talking about the Beatles recording of Don't Bother Me that they did in September of 1963. Now, George Harrison had been credited as a co-writer on In Spite of All the Danger that he wrote with Paul in 1958 and Cry for a Shadow that he wrote with John in 1961. But Don't Bother Me is George's very first attempt at writing a song by himself. Now, he wrote Don't Bother Me just to see if he could write a song. He was sick in bed at the Palace Hotel in Bournemouth while the Beatles were on tour in 1963. And the song is darker and more pessimistic than was common for an early Beatles song. A doctor had given George Harrison some medicine which contained morphine in it, and which was common at the time. And about writing the song, George has said, "I was sick in bed. Maybe that's why it turned out to be Don't Bother Me. And the doctor gave me some tonic, which must have had amphetamine or something in it. And the rest just drank it to get high. I knew a little bit about writing from the others, from the privileged point of sitting in the car when a song was written or coming into being. I decided to try to write a song just for a laugh. I got out my guitar and just played around till the song came. I forgot all about it till we came to record the next LP. It was a fairly crappy song. I forgot about it completely once it was on the album." And about the Beatles' songwriting, Paul has said, "It was an option to include George in the songwriting team. John and I had already talked about it. I remember walking up past Woolton Church with John one morning and going over the question. Without wanting being too mean to George, would three of us write or would it be better to keep it simple? We decided we'd just keep the two of us. He wrote Don't Bother Me. That was the first one and he improved from that and became very good." It's common knowledge that George Martin didn't want to spend a lot of time recording a George Harrison song because he didn't think it would be a moneymaker, so Don't Bother Me was rushed through pretty quickly. They first recorded it on 2-track machine on September 11th. George played a demo for the band that he recorded while sick in bed, as aforementioned, and that demo is available online, and you can hear that it has different chords and different structure than the finished track. John Lennon wanted to use a Maestro fuzz tone on the entire track, but instead John ended up using the amp's tremolo. But nothing from that day recording was ever used. So on September 12th, they're back at EMI Studio 2, and they started all over. And it was decided the song needed a change of structure. So it's assumed that John and Paul helped with the arrangement quite a lot. They played and sang live, and Take 13 ends up being the best. John and Paul didn't think much of the song, but they worked quite a lot to make the track, pretty good. The overdubs were George double-tracking his lead vocal, and then John, Paul, and Ringo played tambourine, woodblock, and Arabian bongos. And if you listen to the track, unfortunately, that percussion is really out of time. They mixed it on September 30th, but they never played the song live. It was released in the UK on an album called With the Beatles on the 22nd of November 1963, and then in the USA on an album called Meet the Beatles on January 20th, 1964. So that's the backstory. Let's get started. John Lennon is playing his Rickenbacker 325 on Don't Bother Me, and for the most part, it's pretty much the only guitar you hear throughout the song. It was sometimes assumed that George played the part I'm about to show you, but there's just no way George could have sang this and played this part so precisely. So when John starts off, he plays a D chord and then he plays a line down, and the chord's like it starts like this. Now on that E minor, you'll see there's 3 different variations of how he plays the kind of a signature a lick there. So the very first time it's, and then the verse begins. Now in the verse, since the song is in the key E minor, you'd think the chord should be B minor, but you can tell that John is voicing a B major because you hear that major third once in a while, kind of incidentally. But he slides into the B major chord and he plays like this. He goes. Now that's the second E minor, and that's the lick is a little different. So that second E minor lick is. And then continuing on. Now there, it's implied like a D7, but you only hear the root third of D. And then pounds out a G, So closer to time, a verse would sound like this. Like that. Then he hits his tremolo pedal that's on the Vox amplifier, and he plays an E minor to an A to an E minor, like this. Clicks that off, and on verse 2, he's getting more of a similar pattern now, pretty much 1, 2, 3 end on the B to the A to the G to E minor. So it's like this. It's and now here comes the E minor lick that he plays every time, which is back up. Puts the tremolo on, plays the E minor to A again. Now on the first bridge, he leaves the tremolo on and plays from D to E minors, like this. Then he plays B minor to A minor to C to E minor, like this. B minor. You hear that little B to E on the end. Okay, turns tremolo off. Now we are to verse 3. Verse 3 is like this. Slides into the B chord again. Same little line on the E minor. Back with the tremolo. Turns off the tremolo. Now on the when George plays the solo, John plays just again thinking 1, 2, 3 and for the most part through all the chords B, A, G, and E minor. So he's playing like this. Turns the vibrato back on. I'm sorry, the tremolo actually. You hear that last B, E, B. Okay, and now where are we? Am I in the right spot? Yeah. Bridge 2, still with the tremolo on. John plays. Back up to B minor. Turns off the switch, and the last verse slides up into it. And that's the only time you really hear that full D7 chord on the A. And then pound out that G. Then tremolo back on. And there's anticipation, but it's not really played that tightly together. It's almost like John doesn't play the anticipation. He slightly does, George slightly does, and Paul does it too. But basically it's between the two chords, E minor and A. But there's a little anticipation on some of those A's. So when you hear it, it's, sometimes they anticipate, sometimes they don't. So sometimes it's like. But that's even too precise. Anyhow, charts and tabs at MikePachelli.com will make it so much clearer than I can say it or play it. But that's what John did on Don't Bother Me. George Harrison is playing his Gretsch Country Gentleman on Don't Bother Me, and you could hear him in some parts, and some parts he's just buried in the mix. But for the most part, he plays like at the beginning between a D and an E minor chord. He goes like this. He goes... All right, and then on the verses, you could tell he's barring the chords because you hear the third of the chord sometimes. But for the most part, it sounds like he's just playing, on the low 6th and 5th string. But like very slow, the part would sound like... doesn't seem like he defines that E minor chord. So in time, help me out, Ringo. A verse would be like... Alright, now on these little E minor parts, he plays a few extra notes. He'll play E minor. It's almost like he's trying to help himself sing, because getting in the second verse, the melody would be... But he plays... And then back up to the verses, More little notes in between on this E minor. And then... I know I'll... He plays those notes that he's going to sing. He gets to the first bridge, which is between D and E minor for the first two, or first 8 measures, really. And you can tell that even though he's playing quarter notes on the first measure of the bridge, you could see here it's a down-ups thing. So even though it's quarter notes, let's do time again. Help me, Ringo. Here's the first bridge. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then, thanks, buddy. Then to just a B minor strum. B minor, A minor, C, E minor. Verse 3, you would play, simple like that again. Couple notes on these E minor to A. Now, on the solo, there's nothing written that says he overdubbed the solo, but man, the tone of the solo is so much different than any time you hear the rhythm guitar. So I'll get to the solo in a minute, and if you're going to play rhythm guitar in the solo, just play the same sort of, Then after the solo, E minor. Again, he's helping himself sing in pitch to the second bridge, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Thanks, Ringo. And then verse 4. Get a real D7 there. And on the way out, and there's some anticipation, like I talked about in in John's part. And they don't seem like they quite do it exactly together. So I think on my sound alike, I think about on the third measure I did the anticipation of the A of George's, kind of playing alike. either or. So when we first start out, maybe play on the downbeat like. And then anticipate the A. Totally up to you. But that's what George did for the rhythm part on Don't Bother Me. Like I said previously, there's no documentation that says George overdubbed the solo, but the tone is so different and it sounds like the mic is placed farther from the amp than the rhythm parts you hear of him, that there's a possibility he overdubbed the solo when he was double tracking his lead vocal, but we'll never know for sure. But nevertheless, the solo starts on the last measure of verse 3. He starts on beat 2. So I'll play the solo first of all. Sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Let me do that nice and slow for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Now, I think a couple of the noteworthy things is just the quick hammer-ons that are kind of almost hidden in the solo. The first is a slide. When he slides up, he goes 1. Just a normal slide. But then really quick. From on the G string, 3rd fret, 4th fret, to the B string, 4th fret. Okay, then the bend. And a little 16th note. And then playing the same melody again, but this time on lower strings. And a regular slide. And when he gets into these little these E's, a quick hammer on, and then a pull off from the 9th fret to 7th fret. Right? Another hammer on quick. Charts and tabs will make it clearer than I can play it or say it, but that's George Harrison's solo on Don't Bother Me. I have put it together in a sound alike so you can see how all the guitar parts fit together, so please have a look at this.
Since she's been gone, I want no one to talk to me. It's not the same, but I'm to blame, it's plain to see. So go away, leave me alone, don't bother me. I can't believe that she would leave me on my own. It's just not right when every night I'm all alone. I've got no time for you right now, don't bother me. I know I'll never be Sure she's here, please don't come near, just stay away. I'll let you know when she's come home until that day. Don't come around, leave me alone, don't bother me. Don't bother me. Don't bother me. Don't bother me. Don't bother me.
Well, now you've seen all the guitar parts for Don't Bother Me. I suggest you download the charts and tabs at MikePachelli.com. Learn all the parts, play along with my sound like, and you'll get it just like the Beatles. And I really appreciate your consideration in supporting my work that way. So have fun playing this great old song, and until next time, I'm Mike Pachelli. Thanks for hanging out with me.